The Academy of the Galactic Union was a place of legends. Its halls stretched for kilometers, built from white stone and shining steel, lined with banners of 100 species. Cadets of every race walked through its corridors, carrying the pride of their people. They came here to learn the arts of war, to wear the uniform of the Union fleet, and to fight in the name of order across the stars. Among them walked Kara, single human. She was small compared to the others. Her dark uniform seemed plain among the bright armor of reptilian soldiers and the shining scales of avian warriors. She carried no weapons, no special equipment. Her eyes were sharp, but her lips remained closed. She spoke to no one, and most of the cadets ignored her as if she did not exist. But whispers followed her. Deathworlder, they called her when they thought she could not hear. A strange creature from the violent world. Why is she even here? Some feared her, others mocked her, most simply doubted her. The Galactic Union had long debated if humans should even be part of the Academy. Earth was a death world, a planet, filled with storms, predators, and endless dangers. The Union considered such worlds unstable, their people too violent to be trusted. And yet here she was, a lone representative of Earth, standing in the greatest military school of the galaxy. The day began with a ceremony in the Grand Assembly Hall. Thousands of cadets gathered in ranks, their boots echoing on the steel floor. The hall was lit by great blue crystals, and the instructors stood on a raised platform, their eyes scanning the crowd like hawks. Kara stood at the very back, as if she belonged to no group. Her silence made her invisible, but not for long. From the front row, an alien cadet turned. He was taller than most, with gray skin stretched tight over powerful muscles. His head was long and ridged, his mouth filled with sharp teeth that formed something close to a smile. His name was Roth, and he had already gained a reputation as one of the Academy's strongest. He was fast, proud, and cruel. Roth's eyes landed on Kara, and his smile widened. He stepped out of formation, ignoring the gasps of others, and walked back through the rows until he stood before her. His voice carried across the hall, deep and mocking. Well, the Deathworlder. Every cadet nearby turned to look. You stand here in silence as if you are too proud to speak. Tell me, Humandu, you really think you belong in the Union's Academy? Or did they let you in as a joke? His words drew laughter from a few nervous chuckles from others. Kara did not move. Her eyes met his, calm and unblinking. Roth sneered. Perhaps she does not understand. Let me explain. Earth is a savage. Rock where beasts eat their own kind. You are nothing but animals playing soldier. Tell me, little human, do you think silence makes you strong? Speak, so we can laugh at your weak voice. The hall grew quiet. Even the instructors, though they said nothing, watched closely. It was rare to see a human challenged in such a way. Kara did not answer. Her hands stayed at her sides. Her face remained still. The only sign of life was the faint rise and fall of her breath. Roth's grin faltered. Something about her silence pressed on him like a weight. He raised his voice louder, trying to draw a reaction. Do you hide because you are afraid? Do you think ignoring me will save your honor? No, human, you have no honor. You are nothing. But prey pretending to stand among hunters? Gasps ran through the crowd. No cadet had ever insulted another so openly before the instructors. But Kara still did not answer. She simply looked at him, eyes steady, expression blank. It was not defiance. It was not fear. It was something else, something Roth could not understand. The silence stretched on, heavier and heavier, until even. The cadets who laughed now shifted uncomfortably. Finally, Roth leaned closer, his teeth inches from her face. Say something, Deathworlder. Anything. Prove you are not just a shadow among us. But Kara only stared back. It was then the instructors spoke. Tss. Enough. Their voices were calm but sharp, cutting through the tension. Return to your place, Cadet Roth. Roth hesitated, anger flickering in his eyes. But he obeyed, stepping back to his row, gave Kara one last glare before turning away. The hall was silent. The instructors continued with the ceremony, but few cadets heard their words. Their eyes returned again and again to the human who had said nothing and yet seemed to have one. When the assembly ended, cadets whispered in clusters. Some called Kara a coward. Others said she was clever. But none could forget the image of Roth shouting while she stood unmoved. In the following days, Roth tried again and again to provoke her. He mocked her during training drills, insulted her during meals, even shoved her in the corridors. But no matter what he did, Kara never spoke. She simply met his eyes, and for reasons he could not explain. His chest grew heavy each time. It was as if her silence was not weakness, but a weapon sharper than any blade. The instructors too noticed. They spoke quietly among themselves. "Strange girl," one said. "Too quiet," said another. "Dot." None moved against her. They watched, waiting, curious. Then came the day everything changed. It began during a combat simulation. Cadets were gathered on the training fields outside the academy walls, their weapons set to harmless stun modes. The sky was clear, the artificial sun shining bright. Roth saw his chance. During the mock battle, he cornered Kara near the edge of the field. With his squad at his back, he raised his weapon and sneered, "Let us see how the Deathworlder fights. Or will you stay silent and fall like prey?" The other cadets looked on. Some cheered him. Others waited, hearts pounding, but before Kara could even react, before the mock battle could continue, the ground trembled, the sky darkened. A sound like thunder rolled across the field. The academy walls shook, alarms blaring from every tower. The instructors shouted orders, but their voices were drowned out by the deafening wail of warning sirens. Something was approaching. Something real. The cadets froze. The mock battle forgotten. Kara's eyes lifted to the sky. For the first time, her expression changed, not fear, but focus. The sound grew louder, a roar that made the very ground vibrate. And then a voice thundered. Through the Academy's communication system, unidentified fleet detected. All cadets prepare for immediate defense. Panic spread among the young soldiers. They had trained for war, but not for this. Not for an attack on their academy. Roth dropped his weapon, eyes wide. What is happening?" Kara did not answer. She simply stood tall as the shadows of enemy ships fell across the training fields. Her silence now more powerful than ever. The scene cut with the alarms echoing. The future of the academy uncertain, the truth of the human. Deathworlder yet to be revealed. The alarms still echoed through the halls of the academy. Red lights flashed across the ceilings, bathing every corridor in a warning glow. Cadets rushed in every direction, their voices rising in panic. Ships, real ships. The announcement had repeated. Unidentified fleet detected. Cadets prepare for immediate defense. For many of the young aliens, this was the first time they had ever faced a threat beyond controlled drills. Their training exercises had never prepared them for the sound of real sirens, the deep rumble of war engines breaking through the atmosphere. Fear spread like fire. Some cadets ran for the barracks to grab weapons. Others shouted questions at the instructors, desperate for orders. Some froze, unable to move. And then, over the noise, Roth's laugh rose again. The gray-skinned alien cadet turned toward Kara, his voice echoing. "Look at the human now. What will your silence do? Against real warships? Hide in the shadows, Deathworlder. This is no place for you." Several cadets laughed nervously, trying to mask their fear. But Kara did not look at him. She did not answer. Instead, she began walking. Slow, steady steps carried her across the chaos of the courtyard. Her eyes never left the sky, where dark shapes now descended, breaking through the clouds, like claws tearing open the heavens. "Where are you going?" A cadet shouted. She gave no reply. The instructors barked orders at last. Form squads, defensive positions. Move. The cadets scrambled into groups, but confusion reigned. No one knew where the threat would strike first. No one knew what kind. The enemy was coming. One instructor's voice cut through the noise. "Cadet Kara, frontline squad leader." Gasps rippled across the cadets. "What?" Roth shouted, his eyes flashing with outrage. "She is nothing. Just even." Spoken, but the instructor ignored him. Orders were orders. Kara stood still for a moment, then gave the smallest nod. She walked toward the forming line of cadets who had been assigned to her command. They were nervous. They were unsure. A few glared at her with open doubt, but they gathered, waiting. Kara looked at them, her face calm, her eyes steady. She did not shout. She did not give long speeches. She only raised her hand slowly and pointed to a cluster of broken walls at the edge of the training field. Confused, the squad hesitated. Why? Should we follow her? One cadet whispered. Another muttered because she isn't afraid. She sprinted. The Titan's cannon flared, the light blinding. At the last moment, Kara leaped. Her blade cut through the glow, through the heart of the weapon. Sparks exploded. The Titan screamed, its cannon shattering into molten shards. The blast backfired, tearing through its own armor. The explosion rocked the sky. The Titan staggered, its body burning from within. It collapsed backward, its weight crushing the ground in a thunderous crash. Silence followed. Smoke rose into the air. The Titan lay still, broken, its molten veins dimming into ash dot. And in the middle of it all, Kara stood, her blade still in hand, her face calm. The cadets slowly rose, their bodies bruised and burned, their eyes wide with awe. Roth stumbled forward. For the first time in his life, he dropped to one knee before another, his head bowed, his pride gone. She is not just a cadet, he whispered. She is Deathworlder. She is humanity. Others followed. One by one, cadets of every species knelt. Even the instructors bowed their heads. Great Hall had fallen silent, not in fear, but in reverence. Kara did not speak. She only looked at the fallen Titan, then at the warship above. The great ship began to retreat, pulling back into the clouds, its invasion shattered by what it had seen. Word would spread, across the Union, across the stars. A single human cadet, mocked for her silence, had faced nightmares. Machines and Titanzan prevailed. Her silence had shaken the Academy. Her silence had led an army, and now her silence had shaken the stars. As the dawn light broke through the clouds, Kara sheathed her blade. She turned to the cadets who knelt before her, their faces filled with awe. Her lips parted, and for the second time in the entire war, she spoke. Only 2 words. Stand ready. The cadets obeyed instantly because they knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning. Something in her stillness pulled them forward. One by one, they followed her into cover. Roth, watching from his squad, sneered, "Cowards hiding behind ruins. She will get you all killed." But his voice trembled, and he knew it. Above, the enemy ships split apart, scattering like hunters releasing their hounds. Small craft dropped from their bellies, drones shaped like spears, glowing red at the tips. They streaked downward, screaming as they cut through the air. The cadets screamed, some firing too early, others wasting shots into empty sky. The drones moved too fast, too sharp, weaving between blasts of energy. Kara did not move. Her squad crouched behind the wall, confused and restless. "Why aren't we shooting?" one asked. Kara only raised her hand again, palm flat. Wait. Seconds. Stretched. The sound of approaching drones grew louder, a shriek that cut through bone. Cadets outside cover broke ranks, running in panic. Then Kara's eyes narrowed. She dropped her hand. The squad obeyed. They rose as one and fired. The drones burst into fire midair, torn apart before they could strike. The battlefield went silent for a moment. Smoke drifted through the air. Sparks rained down from burning wreckage. The squad stared at Kara. How? How did she know the angle? One cadet whispered. She waited, another said softly. She knew exactly when to fire. Even the instructors exchanged glances, their expressions hard to read. From across the field, Roth stood frozen. His mouth hung open, his earlier laughter gone. Kara lowered her weapon. She did not smile. She did not speak. She only turned her eyes back to the sky, watching the next wave descend. For the first time, every cadet around her understood her silence was not emptiness. It was calculation. It was focus. It was power, and Roth felt something he had never felt before: fear. The second wave of drones breaks from the clouds, far larger than the first. The academy walls tremble under their approach. Kara steps forward, her eyes fixed on the sky, her hand lifting once again, silent, calm, unreadable. The night after the attack fell heavy over the academy. Smoke still drifted from the broken training fields, and repair drones buzzed across the ruins like silent insects. The cadets had survived the first wave, but their hearts were shaken. For many, it was the first time they had stared death in the face. And still, one memory remained sharper than the sirens, sharper than the fire. The silent human cadet Kara. She had not spoken a word, yet her raised hand had saved dozens. Her calm eyes had guided them when panic threatened to tear them apart. Some whispered that it was luck. Others believed it was something more. But one voice among them could not let it rest. The tall, gray-skinned alien sat in the mess hall, his broad shoulders tense, his jaw clenched. His squad sat nearby, whispering nervously. Where the drones would strike. How, one said. It was as if she saw them before they came. Roth slammed his fist on the table, making the cups rattle. She is a coward. She hides behind silence and tricks. Nothing more. But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at him. He had mocked her. He had shouted. But her silence had broken him in front of everyone. His pride was torn. His reputation cracked. He needed to restore it. The chance came faster than he expected. The next morning, the cadets were summoned to the assembly hall. The instructors stood tall at the front, their faces grim. The attack was only the beginning, one instructor announced. But before we prepare you for war, we must test your hearts. Strength of body is useless without strength of will. Today, you face the trial of fear. The hall rippled with uneasy whispers. The trial of fear was a test whispered about in every academy of the Union. It was a chamber of illusions, machine, that reached into your mind and pulled out your deepest terrors, forced you to face them, stripped of weapons, stripped of pride. Many cadets emerged broken. Some never returned at all. Roth's lips curled into a smile. He rose to his feet and shouted, "Let the Deathworlder go first." Gasps filled the room. To demand another cadet face, the trial first was considered. Cruel, almost a challenge to the instructors themselves. But the instructors looked at Kara, who stood silently at the back. "Very well," one said. "Human cadet Kara will enter first." The hall fell into silence. All eyes turned to her. Kara did not flinch. She did not argue. She simply stepped forward, her boots echoing softly on the steel floor. Without a word, she entered the chamber. The heavy doors shut behind her, sealing with a hiss. Inside, darkness swallowed her. The chamber was silent at first. Then a low hum began. Lights flickered on the walls, scanning her body, her mind. Then the world shifted. She stood not in the academy, but in the middle of a burning forest. Smoke choked the air. Flames roared around her, consuming the trees. Shadows of monstrous beasts moved between the flames, their eyes glowing red. A voice whispered in the smoke, "You cannot save them." Figures appeared before her colony. The small outpost on the edge of human space where she had grown up. Faces she remembered, her mother, her younger brother, her friends. They screamed as the flames consumed them, reaching toward her with desperate hands. Kara stood still. Her chest rose and fell, but no sound escaped her lips. The beasts closed in. Claws scraped the ground, their fangs dripping. The fire surged higher. Screams grew louder. And still she was silent. One beast lunged, its jaws wide. Kara's eyes flickered only for a moment. Her hand clenched into a fist. The beast vanished like smoke. Another leapt, but dissolved before it touched her. One by one, the horrors collapsed into ash as she walked forward, her boots crunching over burning coals. The illusion tried harder. The forest melted away into endless black water. Waves crashed. Swallowing the horizon, something vast moved beneath the surface, larger than mountains. A voice thundered in her ears. "You are alone. No one will hear you. No one will save you." From the deep, a massive shape rose, a serpent of the sea, eyes glowing like suns. Its jaws opened, wide enough to swallow a city whole. Kara stood. On the water's surface, her hair whipping in the storm wind. She did not scream, she did not run, she simply whispered. Her voice so soft it was almost nothing. Not again. The sea monster froze. The water shattered like glass, fragments dissolving into light. Outside, instructors watched from the control chamber. Holograms displayed the waves of terror pressing against Kara's mind. They watched her heartbeat remain steady, her breathing calm. "She isn't breaking," one instructor murmured. "She should be screaming by now," another whispered. But she did not. The chamber shifted again. Now she stood on a field of bones beneath a black sky. Shadows rose around her, tall and thin, their hands reaching with claws. Voices hissed in unison. "Earth is dead. Humanity is nothing. You are nothing." The shadows surged, thousands of them, drowning the field in darkness. Kara dropped to one knee for the first time. Her hands shook, not from fear, from memory. The colony burning, the screams of her family, the silence after the slaughter. Her eyes closed. A single tear cut down her cheek. Then she opened them. She stood again, slow and steady. Her hands stopped trembling. She looked at the shadows and whispered, louder this time. Not again. The shadows froze. Cracks split across their bodies. One by one, they shattered into dust, their voices silenced. The chamber shook violently. The systems strained. Warnings flashed across the instructor's panels. "She's overloading the trial," an engineer shouted. "Her mind isn't resisting, it's destroying the illusions." The shadows vanished completely. The field of bones collapsed into light, and then silence. Kara stood alone in darkness. The doors hissed open. The cadets outside leaned forward, waiting to see her stumble out, broken and pale. But she walked out straight-backed, her eyes calm. Not a mark on her, not a sound from her lips. The hall erupted in whispers. She didn't break. No one survives the trial without screaming. She walked through it like it was nothing. Roth's face twisted in rage. He stood and shouted, "It is a trick. She must have cheated." But no one believed him now. Even the instructors stood silent, their faces pale. Kara did not look at Roth. She walked past him, her silence louder than any answer. That night, Roth crept through the academy halls, fury burning in his chest. He would not be humiliated again. He pushed open the door to Kara's quarters, ready to confront her, but she was already awake. Sitting in the dark, her eyes lifted slowly. In her hand was an old earth blade, the metal glinting faintly in the shadows. Her voice, quiet but sharp, as steel cut through the silence. "Do you really want to know why I'm silent?" The academy never slept, yet that night the halls felt different. The echoes of Kara's trial of fear still haunted every cadet. Many whispered about it in their quarters, unable to rest. They had seen her walk into the chamber of nightmares, and walk out calm, unbroken, silent. But one cadet could not stand the whispers. Rado. He stormed down the long corridors, his boots pounding against the metal floor. His pride had been cut too deep. Twice now the human had humiliated him, first in the assembly, then in the trial. His claws clenched, his teeth grinding. He would not allow her silence to make him weak. He would break it. He would drag her truth out into the open, no matter what it was. The door to Kara's quarters slid open with a hiss. Inside, no lights burned. Darkness filled the small chamber. Yet she was awake. Kara sat on the floor, her back against the wall. Her hair fell across her face, her eyes fixed on something in her hand. An old earth blade, dull with age, the kind carried not in space, but in the wilds of her homeworld. The faint light from the hallway glinted against the steel. Roth froze. For the first time, he felt the air itself pressing down on him. Her voice broke the silence soft. but sharp enough to cut through his rage. "Do you really want to know why I am silent?" Roth stepped into the room, the door closing behind him with a hiss. "Yes," he snarled. "I want to know what trick you use to frighten others. What shadow hides behind your silence?" Kara did not rise. She turned the blade slowly in her hands, staring at the reflection. "Silence is not a trick," she said quietly. "It is survival." Roth's lip curled. "Survival. You stand in the greatest academy of the galaxy. You are surrounded by strength, by warriors. What do you survive here?" Her eyes lifted to his, steady and unblinking. "The same thing I survived before this place. Death." Roth hesitated, his words caught in his throat. For the first time, he saw something flicker in her gaze, not fear, but memory. "Sit," she said softly. Against his own will, he did. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the Academy's systems. Kara rested the blade across her knees. "You laugh at Earth," she said. "You think it weak because it is a death world. You are wrong. Earth is not weak. It is cruel. Every storm, every beast, every sickness tests you. Speak too loud in the forests and something will hear you. Run too slow and something will catch you. Show fear and it will eat you." Her eyes grew distant. "When I was young, my family lived on the edge of the colonies. Far from the Union's protection, raiders came one night. They burned everything. The sky turned red. The ground turned black. I was told to run, but running was useless. Caught everyone," my family screamed. Her voice cracked, the faintest sound of pain slipping through. Roth leaned closer, listening in spite of himself. "I learned then," she continued, her voice hardening, "that screams do not save you. Tears do not save you. Silence saves you. When you are silent, the enemy forgets you. When you are silent, you can move. When you are silent, you survive." Roth stared at her, the weight of her words pressing on him. "You saw them die?" he asked quietly. Kara nodded once. The blade gleamed faintly in the dim light. "This was my father's. I found it in the ashes. I carry it not because it is strong, but because it reminds me. Every cut, every scar on it is silence made solid. Every time I hold it, I remember to endure." Roth shifted uncomfortably. The proud cadet who had mocked her in front of hundreds now found no words. But Kara's voice grew colder. "In you mocking my silence, do not understand what it cost me. You see a human girl, you see weakness. But silence is not weakness. Silence is what buried those who came from my family. Silence is why I am still alive while others are bones." For a long moment, Roth could not move. Her words sank into him like claws. He opened his mouth to argue, to deny. But the academy shook. The walls trembled. Red lights flared again. Screamed across the campus. Another attack. The announcement boomed. Enemy fleet detected. All cadets to defensive posts. Roth shot to his feet. Not again. Kara rose slowly, tucking the blade into her belt. Her eyes hardened, her silence returning. She walked past him without another word. Outside, chaos erupted again. Cadets scrambled across the training grounds. Instructors shouted, trying to form lines. But this time, it was not drones that fell from the sky. Shapes descended. Towering machines with legs like blades and cannons on their shoulders. Warwalkers, the cadets panicked. Energy blasts rained. Down, tearing craters into the ground. Entire squads scattered, their formations breaking. Roth raised his weapon, his hands shaking.
"What do we do?"
He shouted to no one in particular. Kara stepped forward, her eyes locked on the descending machines. The same calm silence as before. She raised her hand. Once more, the cadets nearest her froze. Then, without knowing why, they moved behind her. Copying her stance, waiting for her unseen signal, Roth found himself obeying too, though his pride screamed against it. Something in her presence left no room for argument. A warwalker's cannon lit, charging for a devastating blast. The cadets screamed. Kara's hand dropped. Their fire erupted in unison, not wild, but focused. The walker staggered, sparks bursting across its armored chest. Another volley and it collapsed, crashing to the ground with a thunder that shook the Academy, the cadets gasped. For the second time, silence had guided them where panic would have destroyed them. Instructors stared from the walls, unable to deny what they had just seen. The battle raged on. More walkers descended. Cadets rallied. Around Kara, their doubt turning into desperate trust. Roth fought at her side, each blast from his weapon fueled not by arrogance now, but by something new, respect and a growing fear, as the smoke thickened and the ground burned. Kara looked to the horizon, her lips parted, her voice barely audible. Over the roar of war, they came for my home once. Now they come for all of us. This time, they will learn what silence means. The scene cut as a massive shadow fell across the battlefield, larger than the walkers, larger than any ship they had yet faced. The true enemy had arrived. The battlefield still smoked from the wrecks of fallen warwalkers. Sparks hissed in the air, and the training fields of the academy lay broken and scarred. The cadets huddled in scattered squads, their eyes wide with shock. Many had never seen death so close, and yet, in the chaos, one figure stood calm: Kara. The human Deathworlder had guided them through the fire with nothing but silence and small gestures. No speeches, no orders shouted across the noise of battle. Only steady eyes and a raised hand. Somehow, that had been enough. But the sky was not yet clear. Darkness spread as the massive shadow descended. A ship larger than anything the cadets had ever seen broke through the clouds, its hull black as stone, its edges jagged like blades. It moved slow and heavy, but the sound of its engines made the ground tremble. Cadets gasped. Some dropped their weapons. Okay? Others whispered prayers to whatever gods they believed in. Roth, his pride gone, whispered the thought all of them shared. What? What is that? No one answered. Not the cadets, not even the instructors. Only Kara kept her gaze steady. The warship lowered into the sky. From its belly, smaller dropships released, raining down like black meteors. The ground shook. As they landed, their ramps slamming into the dirt, and from them marched soldiers in dark armor, their faces hidden behind glass helmets, their weapons glowing with cruel light. This was no simulation, no test, no accident. The academy was under a true invasion. Cadets broke into panic. Some ran. Others froze. Few fired wildly into the air, their blasts bouncing uselessly off the invaders' shields. An instructor shouted, "Hold your lines." But his voice was lost in the storm of fear. The enemy raised their weapons, and in the middle of it all, Kara stepped forward. She did not shout. She did not lift her weapon. She only moved to the front, her silence cutting through the chaos like a blade. Her squad followed without hesitation, pulled by something they could not name. Roth found himself moving too. The cadet who once mocked her now stood at her side, his weapon tight in his hands. He hated it, hated that he trusted her more than his own instincts. And yet he did. Kara raised her hand. The cadets froze. The enemy fired. Kara dropped her hand. Dozens of cadets fired in unison, their blasts striking the enemy's shields at once. The glow around the armored figures flickered, then cracked. The enemy staggered back. The instructors stared in disbelief. Somehow, without a word, the human had turned frightened students into a weapon. The battle spread. Smoke covered the sky, and the academy grounds burned. Kara's squad fought like they had never fought before. They had no training for this. No experience against true war, yet under her silent guidance, they moved with unity. But the enemy did not stop. More dropships landed, more soldiers marched. The cadets were pushed back step by step. In the command tower, the instructors argued. She cannot lead. She is only a cadet. She is the only one they are following. This is madness. This is a child's war. But as they looked down, they saw the truth. Wherever Kara stood, cadets rallied. Wherever her hand moved, the enemy fell. Silence had become command. At last, During a brief pause in the fighting, Roth turned to her, chest heaving. His voice cracked with frustration. Why? Why do they follow you? Why do I follow you? Kara met his eyes, her face unreadable. You do not understand silence, she said softly. You think strength is in words, in shouting, in showing power. But silence is older than words. On Earth, silence means you are watching. Silence means you are waiting. Silence means danger. Roth swallowed, his throat dry. Kara looked back to the enemy, her eyes cold. You laughed because I did not speak. But silence is how Deathworlders speak. For the first time, Roth understood. Her silence was not weakness. It was the language of survival. The language of predators. The battle grew worse. The Academy's shields flickered, strained under bombardment. The enemy surged forward. Then the Academy's central alarm changed. A new signal. Deeper, harsher tone. All cadets, the voice boomed. Report to the Great Hall. Final defense. Initiated. The instructors had given up on the field. They were pulling everyone back for one last stand. Cadets stumbled through the smoke, retreating toward the Great Hall. The enemy pressed closer, their footsteps like thunder. Kara walked. In silence, her blade at her side, her eyes fixed forward, her squad stayed around her like a shield. Even Roth. When they reached the Great Hall, the massive doors sealed shut behind them. Thousands of cadets gathered inside, weapons clutched tight, faces pale. The instructors stood at the front, grim and silent, and then one of them did something. No cadet expected. He turned to Kara. Human cadet, he said. Stand before them. Gasps rippled across the hall. Roth shouted, She's just a cadet. You can't, but the instructor silenced him with a glare. They are already following her. She is already leading them. Now it must be made clear. Slowly, Kara stepped forward. She turned to face the thousands of cadets. Their eyes locked on her, their breaths held. Their hearts waited. She raised her hand. Silence fell over the hall. No speeches, no orders. No promises of glory or survival. Just silence. And yet it was louder than any words. Every cadet knew what it meant. Hold, watch, fight when the moment. Came the enemy pounded at the doors. The walls shook. The hall filled with the thunder of war. Roth looked at Kara one last time. For the first time in his life, he bowed his head. The doors shattered. Enemy soldiers flooded in, their weapons glowing, their armor unbroken. The cadets raised their rifles, hearts racing. Kara lifted her blade, her eyes calm, her silence cutting through fear itself. And for the first time, she spoke loud enough for all to hear. Now, the hall erupted in fire. The great hall of the Academy shook like a living creature under the pounding of enemy weapons. The cadets inside could hear the steady thud of explosions, the screech of metal tearing, and the hiss of sparks falling from the ceiling. The hall was vast, built for ceremonies and drills, but now it had become a fortress of fear. Thousands of young cadets pressed together, gripping their weapons, their breaths fast and shallow. The massive steel doors bulged inward with each strike. The glow of enemy blasts cut through the cracks, blinding flashes against the dark. And then, with a final shriek of tortured metal, the doors gave way. A storm of light and fire poured in. The enemy surged forward, droves of armored soldiers, tall and faceless, their helmets shining cold blue, their rifles humming with deadly energy. They advanced in perfect rhythm, their boots like thunder on the steel floor. Cadets screamed. Some fired blindly. Others stumbled back, their hands shaking so hard they nearly dropped their rifles. The instructors shouted commands, but their voices were drowned out by panic, and then Kara stepped forward. The human cadet moved to the front, her small frame almost lost in the wave of taller bodies. Yet when she lifted her hand, the chaos around her bent into stillness. The cadets closest to her froze, their eyes snapping to her gesture. Her palm faced them, steady and calm. Wait, the enemy charged closer. Rifles lifting, Kara's hand dropped. A wall of fire erupted from the cadets' rifles. The blasts struck the enemy's shields all at once, overwhelming them. Several armored figures staggered, sparks spraying as their shields cracked. A second volley dropped them, bodies crashing to the floor with metallic thuds. The cadets gasped. For the first time in the Academy's history, untrained cadets had pushed back a professional strike force. But the enemy did not stop. More soldiers poured through the shattered doors, stepping over their fallen without pause. Their rifles unleashed streams of glowing bolts. Cadets fell screaming, their bodies smoking. Panic threatened to return. Kara lifted her hand again. Her eyes burned with focus. She stepped into the storm without hesitation, her silence stronger than the thunder of rifles. The great hall became a battlefield, air filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Cadets fought desperately, their ranks breaking again and again, only to be pulled back together by Kara's silent signals. She never shouted, she never wasted words. A hand up meant hold. A hand down meant fire. A tilt of her head meant move. Slowly, the cadets began to understand her language. It was simple. It was brutal. And it worked. Where other squads collapsed, hers held. Where others fired wildly, hers struck with precision. Roth fought at her side. His rifle spat fire until it overheated, his muscles straining as he pushed back enemy after enemy. Sweat ran down his gray skin, and for the first time, he did not feel like a leader, not even like a warrior. He felt like a student and Kara was the teacher. "Why did they listen to you?" he shouted over the battle, his voice hoarse. Kara did not answer. She only raised her blade, deflecting an enemy strike, and pointed to a weak spot in the advancing. Line Roth followed her signal without question, firing into the gap. The enemy soldier fell and the cadets surged forward. The instructors, watching from the upper platform, were stunned. "She's commanding them," one whispered. "Not commanding," another replied. "They're choosing to follow her." But the enemy pushed harder. From the warship above, new machines dropped smaller than the walkers, but faster. With claws that tore through walls and cannons mounted on their shoulders, they rushed into the hall like beasts, scattering cadets. In terror, the instructors shouted, but no one listened. The cadets were breaking. Kara moved. She leaped onto the remains of a shattered column, her silhouette framed by smoke and fire. Her eyes scanned the chaos in a heartbeat, and she raised her hand high. Every cadet who saw her froze. She lowered it slowly, pointing to the floor. "Get low." Hundreds dropped instantly, ducking behind cover. The machine swept the hall with deadly fire, but their blasts passed over the crouched cadets, striking only empty air. The enemy paused, confused. Kara's hand sliced forward. The cadets rose as one and fired. The machine staggered, sparks spraying from their joints.
Ow, one collapsed.
And the rest faltered under the rain of concentrated fire. The hall shook with cheers, but only for a moment. A sound deeper than thunder filled the air. The enemy parted. Through the smoke walked something worse. A commander. Its armor was darker than the others, lined with glowing red veins. Its height dwarfed even Roth, and its weapon was a blade longer than Kara's entire body. The faceless helmet turned slowly, locking on the human who stood at the center of resistance. The cadets fell silent, their cheers dying. Fear spread. "Again," Roth whispered. "Kara, that one isn't like the others." The commander lifted its blade. The air seemed to bend around it. One swing would cut through dozens of cadets. The cadets trembled, weapons shaking in their hands. Some nearly dropped to their knees, But Kara stepped forward. Her silence was a wall. Her calm was a shield. She raised her hand again, but this time, not to the cadets. She pointed at the commander. Every rifle in the hall turned. Every eye followed. Every heart beat in unison. The commander advanced, slow and steady. Kara waited, the moment stretched. Every cadet held their breath. The commander raised its blade. Kara dropped her hand. The hall exploded with fire. Hundreds of rifles unleashed their fury at once. Commander's shield held for a moment, glowing like a sun, then shattered. The armor cracked. The massive figure staggered, roaring through its helmet. It swung its blade once, slicing through a column, the shockwave knocking cadets off their feet. But the storm of fire did not stop. Kara's eyes burned as she kept her hand down, pushing them to keep firing. At last, the commander collapsed, its body crashing to the floor. The cadets erupted in cheers, their voices shaking the walls. For the first time, enemy faltered. The soldiers hesitated. They looked at the fallen commander, then at the silent human who had brought it down. The enemy began to retreat. Dropships pulled back, their engines roaring. The cadets cheered again, their fear replaced by triumph. But Kara did not cheer her. Eyes remained on the sky, on the massive warship that still hovered above, silent and waiting. Slowly, the warship's hull opened. A glow began to build inside, brighter and brighter, until it lit the clouds like a second sun. Roth followed her gaze, his voice cracked with terror. They're not retreating. They're charging their super weapon. The hall went silent. Every cadet turned upward, their faces pale. Kara's hand tightened on her father's blade. For the first time, she whispered words not to Roth, not to the cadets, but to herself. Not again. The glow in the sky grew brighter, ready to erase the academy in a single blast, and the scene cut to black. The great hall had fallen silent. Not from peace, but from fear. Above the academy, the enemy warship loomed like a mountain of black steel. Its hull had split open, revealing a glowing sphere inside. The light burned brighter and brighter, turning the clouds into fire. It was not just a weapon, it was judgment. One blast, and the academy would be erased, along with everyone inside. The cadets stared upward, frozen. Some wept quietly. Others clutched their rifles, though they knew rifles were useless against a warship's cannon. Breaths came short and fast. Not again. Kara whispered under her breath, so softly no one but Roth beside her heard. He turned to her, his face pale, his voice trembling. It's over. That thing will wipe us all out. Even the Union's fleets would struggle against a ship like that. We're finished. But Kara did not look away from the sky. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes burned with the same fire that had carried her through the trial of fear. The same silence that had turned cadets into soldiers. The instructors gathered on the raised platform, speaking urgently into their coms, till their voices carried. Across the hall, we must retreat. The academy is lost. If we survive, we regroup off-world. Their words spread like poison through the cadets. Retreat, lost, abandoned. No, young cadet shouted, his voice breaking. Can't run? If we scatter, they'll pick us off one by one. Another fell to his knees, sobbing. I don't want to die here. Not like this. The instructors did nothing to calm them. Even they had given up. And then, above the chaos, Kara moved. She climbed onto the wreck of a broken machine, her silhouette outlined by the red glow of the warship's charging weapon. The cadets turned, their eyes drawn to her as if pulled by gravity itself. She raised her hand. The whispers stopped. The cries stilled. The silence spread through the great hall like a wave. She stood tall, her father's blade hanging at her side. Her face calm, her eyes hard. The weapon in the sky was brighter than the sun, but her silence was brighter still. For the first time, every cadet in the hall understood. She was not asking them to listen. She was telling them. Roth's chest rose and fell as he stared at her. The same cadet who had once mocked her now felt his legs weaken under the weight of her silence. How slowly, without even thinking, he dropped to one knee. Others followed. One by one, cadets lowered their heads, not to the instructors, not to the Union, but to the human Deathworlder who had saved them again and again. An instructor shouted, "What are you doing?" "She's just a cadet." But the cadets ignored him. Kara lifted her hand again, pointing not to the ground, not to her fellow cadets, but to the sky, to the massive warship above. The meaning was clear. Fight. Roth's voice rose, no longer mocking. No longer cruel. Follow the human, he shouted. Follow the Deathworlder. The hall shook with the roar of cadets' voices. Thousands cried out as one, their fear burning into fury. The instructors froze. They could not stop it now. The academy was no longer theirs. It belonged to her. Weapons were raised. The cadets formed ranks tighter than they had ever managed in. Drills. Their eyes blazed with new fire. They no longer looked like frightened children. They looked like soldiers. Kara stepped down from the wreck, her silence leading them toward the shattered doors. The battle spilled into the academy's courtyards, flames lighting the night. Enemy soldiers advanced, but they hesitated now. The cadets no longer ran in panic. They moved as one, striking with precision. Their fire cut through the armored ranks, pushing them back. The instructors watched in disbelief. She's turning the tide. But Kara knew the truth. It was not enough. As long as the warship remained in the sky, nothing they did mattered. Her eyes never left the glow above. Hours passed like minutes. The cadets fought, bled, and held the line. Roth never left Kara's side. He no longer mocked her silence. Depended on it, at last, as dawn touched the edge of the sky, the warship's weapon reached its peak. The light spread across the heavens like fire ready to fall. The ground shook. The air screamed. The blast was coming. Cadets froze again, there. Newfound courage faltering. Even Roth's hand shook. "We can't stop that," he whispered. "No army can stop that." But Kara's eyes narrowed. She whispered so softly that only those closest could hear. "Deathworlders don't wait for mercy." Then she moved. Kara raised her blade, pointing at the massive warship as if daring it. Then she lowered her hand sharply. Every cadet fired upward. Thousands of rifles. Every blast aimed at the same point, the glowing sphere of the enemy's weapon. The sky lit with fury. The sphere flickered, wavered, its light trembling under the storm of fire. The warship shook, its systems straining. Sparks flew across its hull, and then, for the first time, the enemy weapon faltered. The cadets roared in triumph, but the warship answered. Its hull split further, and from within something vast began to emerge. Larger than the commander they had faced, larger than the academy itself, a figure of living steel. Its body glowing with molten veins, a war machine built not for battle, but for destruction. Roth's voice broke in horror. "It's not a weapon. It's a god-killer." The cadets. Cheers died instantly. The machine's eyes lit red as it descended from the warship, each step shaking the earth. And Kara, her silence unbroken, tightened her grip on her blade. The true battle had only just begun. The ground trembled as the god-killer descended. It was no ordinary machine. It towered above the academy walls, its frame built of black metal and molten veins that glowed like rivers of fire. Each step cracked the earth. Its hands were claws of steel, and in one it held a weapon the size of a starship cannon, glowing with the same deadly energy as the warship above. The cadets stared, their courage crumbling. The cheers that had filled the great hall moments before died on their lips. The sky burned red from the glow of the weapon, and the academy seemed like a toy beneath its shadow. "Impossible," an instructor whispered. His voice shook. "That is no army weapon. That is a Titan-class destroyer. Entire fleets fall before one of those." Cadets stumbled back, their rifles trembling in their hands. Roth, who had once mocked Kara without mercy, whispered now in terror. We can't fight that. It will crush us all." But Kara did not step back. She moved forward. The god-killer's head turned, its molten eyes locking on the human cadet who stood in the ruins of the academy courtyard. She was so small compared to it, a single figure against a mountain of destruction, And yet, in that silence, she looked larger than life. She raised her father's blade, the dull metal reflecting the glow of the Titan's weapon. Her eyes narrowed. Every cadet around her froze, waiting, their hearts pounding in their chests. The Titan lifted its cannon. The air screamed as energy gathered at its core, as a single blast could erase them all. Kara's hand rose, thousands of eyes fixed on it. The cadets held their breath, their fingers ready on their triggers. Though they knew rifles were nothing against such a machine, the Titan fired. The blast tore through the air like a newborn sun. Kara's hand dropped, down. Following her unspoken command, the cadets hit the ground. The blast screamed overhead, ripping through the academy towers, but sparing those who had obeyed. Stone and fire rained down, but the cadets rose again. It's alive. For the first time, the impossible seemed survivable. The battle began. The cadets unleashed their fury, thousands of rifles spitting fire at the Titan. The machine staggered under the storm, but its armor held. The blasts left scars, but not wounds. The Titan roared, a sound of metal grinding against metal, and swept its cannon in a wide arc. Dozens of cadets were thrown back, their bodies crashing against walls. Roth fired, until his rifle burned his hands. He shouted through the chaos, "We can't break it, not with rifles." Kara's eyes stayed locked on the Titan. Her silence cut through the panic, her calm stronger than fear. She gestured sharply, dashed forward. The cadets hesitated to advance. Against such a monster was madness, but her eyes gave no room for doubt. One by one they moved. Roth at the front, screaming his fury. They ran through fire, dodging blasts, closing the distance. Kara led them straight toward the Titan's legs. The cadets unleashed their fire at point-blank range. Armor shattered, sparks rained. One of the Titan's knees buckled, sending it crashing down to one side. The ground split under its weight. Cheers erupted. But the victory was short. The Titan pushed itself up, molten veins blazing brighter, its rage filling the sky. It slammed its claw into the ground, sending shockwaves that threw cadets like ragdolls. Roth landed hard, blood in his mouth. He looked up at Kara through the dust. She was still standing, blade in hand, her silhouette unbroken. "She's not human," he whispered. Then he corrected himself. "No, she's what a human is meant to be." The Titan roared again, charging its weapon for a final devastating strike. The cadets were scattered, too far to regroup. The instructors were powerless. But Kara stepped forward alone. Her silence pressed heavier than the roar of the Titan. She walked across the burning ground, the heat warping the air, the dust swirling around her. Her small blade glinted, a relic of Earth against the weapon of gods. The cadets watched in stunned silence. Roth struggled to rise, shouting hoarsely. Kara can't, but she already had.